I ran into my supposedly impotent husband of 8 years in the hospital corridor. He was cradling a pregnant woman, tenderly kissing her swollen belly, his eyes shining with a devotion I had never once seen. I heard her coo. "You kept yourself only for me for 8 years. What a sacrifice." In that heartbeat, everything snapped into focus. We had been together 10 years, married 8, and Preston had never given me anything but his back. On our 2-meter bed, he always slept on the outermost edge. On our wedding night, I waited breathless in white silk, every nerve alight. He stepped out of the shower, water beading on his hair, skin carrying the clean scent of body wash. He told me I was beautiful, pressed a kiss to my forehead, whispered, "Serena, I'm exhausted. Can we just turn in?" That exhaustion stretched unchanged for 8 long years. At first I blamed myself. Was my body not good enough? Was my skin not smooth enough? I even ordered lingerie online. When I slipped into the black lace and eased against him, he went rigid. Then he rolled away, yanked the quilt over me, voice soft with apology and shame. "I'm sorry, Serena." His head bowed, tears darkening the pillow. In that instant, every doubt inside me turned to tenderness. From that night, I never broached the subject again. I guarded his pride as carefully as my own heartbeat. I scoured medical journals, simmered tonic after tonic, coaxing him to drink. He never refused, emptying every bowl, stroking my hair. "You're so good to me, Serena." Beyond that, he was the picture of a doting husband. He remembered which dishes I loved, shelled my favorite shrimp, listened to every word I said, as if I were his whole world. At dinner parties, he'd drape an arm around my waist, announcing, "This is my wife, Serena," pride ringing in his voice while every woman in the room envied me. Everyone said I'd married well, married love itself. I almost believed them, until today. "Serena, you're next." The nurse's voice jerked me from the vortex of memories. I inhaled, walked into the clinic. Lately I'd been drained. After the tests, the doctor told me to wait at the far end of the hall. That was when Preston's silhouette sliced through my vision. He didn't notice me. He looked anxious, moving fast. Why was he here? Sick? Why hadn't he said? Questions spun like shrapnel. Instinct sent me after him. He stopped beside a woman in a loose maternity dress, her belly round under the fabric. She faced away, youthful form unmistakable. My heart plummeted. Preston stepped forward, folding her into his arms. He bent to brush her stomach with lips and fingertips, worship in every motion, an adoration he had never shown me. I clamped a hand over my mouth to cage the scream clawing up my throat. "You finally came. I've been waiting," she pouted. 8 years you saved yourself for me. So hard on you. But now we have our baby. Soon you'll never have to fake it with that frump at home." Saved himself? Faked it with me? My mind blanked, time stalled. He kissed her forehead, voice silk and honey. "Silly girl. Everything's worth it for you, for our child." I reeled, back scraping the cold wall as I slid to the floor. He wasn't impotent. He simply didn't want me. He wasn't ill. He was keeping himself pure for his first love. I don't know how I got home. Bare feet cold on the hardwood, nausea churning my gut. In the bedroom, I reached to straighten the sheets. From Preston's pocket, a phone clattered free. It unlocked with a soft click. I never knew he carried a second phone. I opened the gallery. Photos flooded the screen. The earliest, graduation day. Preston in cap and gown, arms around Brielle, her face beaming beside his. That afternoon I'd asked for a photo together. He claimed the valedictory speech left him no time. The images marched forward, 8 years compressed into pixels. Vacation shots framed by snow-capped peaks, sunlit beaches, his stone bridges. Those dates he'd told me he was on business trips. Even a birthday at someone's apartment. A delicate cake, Brielle in a party hat nestled against him, candlelight haloing their joy. The last file, dated yesterday, showed the obstetrics wing. Brielle leaning on Preston's shoulder, ultrasound report in hand, his lips on her temple, pride and bliss lighting his face. An expression I had never provoked. Beneath the picture, a video waited. "Brielle, today is our 10th year together, my 8th married to that woman. I know it hurts, bear with me. Once I control the company, once the Vance resources are mine, I'll divorce her and give you the wedding you deserve. I've never touched her, not once. My body, my everything, belongs only to you. When our child is born, I'll kick her out with nothing." The clip lasted less than 60 seconds. I played it a dozen times until every syllable, every smirk, was seared into my bones. So Serena, the Vance empire, everything, was his target from day one. What was I? A springboard for his ambition, a caretaker for his parents, a stepping stone for his true love's future. Hands shaking, I copied every file to my cloud. When it finished, I began to laugh, softly at first, then wild, ragged tears streaming. Preston, you want me penniless? You want to erase me for them? I won't oblige. I will see you ruined, your name dragged through the gutter. Next morning I brewed his coffee as always, kissed him goodbye at the door. The instant he left I dragged an old handset from beneath the bed, snapped in a new SIM and dialed. The call connected to the fiercest divorce shark in the state, Jamie. Jordan, it's Serena. My terms are simple, divorce, and Preston leaves with nothing but scandal. The instant the call ended I moved on to item 2. The button-sized wire mic I'd ordered online had arrived yesterday. I carried it into Preston's study and studied the room. Against the mahogany shelves sat rows of professional volumes, the trophies and framed certificates he'd collected. Center stage was a group photo, my parents, his parents, and him. We'd taken it right after the wedding, the day he merged our 2 firms into one new company. Everyone beamed, Dad especially, his hand proud on Preston's shoulder. My father treated him like a second son, feeding him every critical Vance contact and resource without reservation. And how did Preston repay him? By hollowing the Vance empire out, then kicking us all to the curb. I peeled the backing off the mic and stuck the barely there disc beneath the knee-hole of his desk. When I finished I dusted, ran a load of laundry, hit the grocery store, and started dinner, just another ordinary day. He plays the flawless husband. I'll play the flawless wife. Gentle, thoughtful, endlessly understanding. That afternoon my mother-in-law called. Her voice dripped triumph. Little Serena, you're free this Saturday, right? Your father and I are throwing a camera in at the Grand. You know how brilliant our Preston is. He just closed another monster deal, and the IPO is around the corner. A glory for the whole Song clan. As his wife you'd better show up polished, don't disgrace us. My knuckles went white around the phone. I answered sweetly. Of course, Mom. I'll get ready. Cameron? Perfect stage. Preston, I'll watch you tumble from the spotlight straight into the mud. Night. Preston was in the study poring over documents. I timed it and carried in a mug of warm milk. The door stood ajar. I'd barely reached it when I heard his hushed voice, Brielle. I froze, flattened to the wall, thumbed record on my phone. Baby, don't be mad, I've got no choice. Serena's still useful. Those Vance fossils only trust her. With the listing at a knife edge, I can't rock the boat. I swear the second the company stabilizes I'll come clean. For our future we suck it up. When the time's right I'll make her vanish without a trace. There's no way she sees a cent. Every penny, everything I own is for you and our child. Behave. After Saturday's bash I'll come to you. I leaned there, heart hammering, while he crooned the cruelest lines imaginable. When the recording stopped I inhaled once, rearranged my face, and walked in. Darling, drink this and get some rest. Preston pocketed the phone, turned not a flicker of guilt. He took the milk and tugged me onto his lap. Working hard, sweetheart. He kissed my forehead, casual, tender. Serena, dressed to stun at the party. You're the Song family's crown jewel. What crown jewel? It's just my job. I tilted my head, admiration shining. Convincing but not cartoonish. Back in the bedroom I didn't lie down. I perched at the vanity and listened. The shower soon roared. Now, I slipped off my flats, padded barefoot to the study. The screen glowed. My eyes locked on a password-protected folder. Preston is cautious. Never touches the most sensitive files on his home laptop, but he thinks I don't know the code. I reached out, fingertips tapping. Password. Brielle's due date plus her initials and the baby's. He'd bragged on the phone that he'd gifted their child a one-of-a-kind birth present. Sick joke. The folder opened. Only 3 files inside, 2 project decks and 1 titled contingency plan. Unease prickled. I double-clicked. Asterisk post Serena asterisk. The word stabbed. A draft will? Worse, an assassination blueprint. It listed ways to engineer my accidental death. Tamper with my car's brakes for a freeway crash. Stage a slip off the dock at my favorite lakeside villa. Rig our staircase so one tumble erases me forever. Each scenario came with notes on feasibility, risk, how to dodge liability. He wrote it all with the calm precision of a quarterly report, not a plan to murder the woman who shares his bed. The last section covered assets. Once I pass, everything I own becomes community property, flowing neatly to him. After a tasteful show of grief he'll funnel every dollar to Brielle and their child. He even circled the optimal window. Right after the IPO, when the Vance side has served its purpose and he holds all the chips. I stared until the words blurred, fingers to heart turned to ice. So make her vanish meant this. I thought I'd plumbed the depths of his cruelty. I hadn't even seen the bottom. The shower cut off. By the time Preston emerged toweling his hair, I was in pajamas, propped against the headboard with a novel. Still awake, waiting for you. I closed the book, soft smile in place, as though nothing had happened. He slid under the covers and dropped into steady breathing within minutes. I rolled onto my side and studied the profile I'd loved for 10 years. Tonight it only turned my stomach. Saturday, the Cameron rolled around. Crystal chimed, champagne flutes glittered, expensive perfume hung thick in the air. Preston owned the room. News of the impending IPO had already circled the hedge fund set. He wore charcoal tailored to millimeter perfection, every hair obedient, working the crowd, soaking up praise. President Song Wunderkind. Once you're listed, we'll all be bowing to you. His father Derek beamed, clapping his heir on the back. His mother Lillian fluttered from cluster to cluster, brandishing her perfect son. I stood on the second-floor landing, quietly watching the counterfeit glamour below. My gaze drifted over the crowd and settled on an inconspicuous corner. Rowan was standing there. She had traded her usual flamboyant outfits for a pale blue dress and soft makeup, doing her best to look gentle and harmless, yet her eyes never left Preston. When Preston's glance met hers, the two traded a smile that needed no words. In that smile were reassurance, promise, and a trace of triumph that said, "We have all the time in the world." A perfect match, truly. I looked away, turned, and walked down the stairs. Preston came over and naturally slipped an arm around my waist, intimate and easy. "Why so understated? Why didn't you wear your champagne gown?" I figured it was just Cameron, so I kept it simple. "Didn't want to steal your spotlight." He led me to the center of the ballroom, picked up the microphone, and cleared his throat. "Friends and family, good evening." His voice carried through the speakers, and every eye fixed on him. "Tonight, I've invited you for 2 reasons. First, to celebrate the company's upcoming IPO, and second, to take this chance to thank some very special people." He paused and gazed at me with affection. "First, I want to thank my wife, Serena. For 8 years she has stood behind me, quietly supporting me, caring for me, giving me a warm home." "Serena, thank you." He sounded so sincere, as if we really were the perfect couple. Thunderous applause. I took the microphone from him. My husband's words have moved me so deeply. I turned to the guests, beaming. To mark this wonderful day, and to thank my husband for his years of hard work, I've prepared a gift for him, and for all of you, to share in our joy. Preston was still basking in his flawless performance, utterly unaware of what was about to happen. I paired my phone via Bluetooth to the massive LED screen in the middle of the hall. The screen lit up, and every head swiveled toward it. The next moment, a video began to play. On screen were Preston and Rowan, inside a warmly decorated apartment. Preston wore loungewear and was gently feeding fruit to Rowan on the sofa. In the clip, the way he looked at her was soaked in adoration and love. He wiped juice from the corner of her mouth, stroked her long hair, then bent down to kiss her lips. The entire ballroom plunged into dead silence. Preston froze, incapable of a single syllable. The smiles on his parents' faces congealed into shock and humiliation. In the corner, Rowan went paper white and instinctively tried to shrink behind the crowd. The video continued. The scene cut to them in a department store, Preston accompanying Rowan as they chose baby items, both beaming at a pair of tiny infant shoes. I stopped the playback. The lights came back up, but the atmosphere was eerily oppressive. I held the microphone, swept my eyes across the room, and finally pinned the trembling Preston in my gaze. "You're probably wondering who the woman in that video is." I raised my hand and pointed unerringly at the slender figure trying to slip away. "That woman is Rowan, my husband's lover outside our marriage." There she is, Rowan in the blue dress. Every gaze snapped toward her. Rowan's body gave a violent quiver. She had nowhere left to hide. "Oh, and one more thing." I lifted a document, the ultrasound report, the name and gestational age circled in red. "Rowan is already 12 weeks pregnant, and the father of her baby is my husband, Preston." Gasps ricocheted through the hall. "Preston!" Derek finally roared, fingers stabbing at his son. Lillian's face was bloodless. Her lips trembled as she stared at me, unable to believe. Preston jerked back to his senses and seized my wrist, so hard I felt the bones grind. "Serena, have you lost your mind? What the hell are you doing?" I flung his hand off and looked at him coldly. "What am I doing?" Into the microphone I enunciated every word. "I simply want everyone to know that my husband keeps a mistress, one who's already carrying his child, while he plays the devoted spouse in public." "No, that's not. Don't listen to her nonsense." Preston panicked and lunged for the microphone. I stepped back, out of reach. "You're all probably wondering why, after 8 years of marriage, we've never had a child. It's because Preston told me he couldn't." The sentence detonated like a thunderclap. His face cycled from white to crimson to livid green, a dye shop in motion. "Serena, shut your mouth," he bellowed. I ignored him and hit play on my phone. In the recording, my past self sobbed. "Preston, why can't we be like a normal couple? Is it something I've done wrong? Serena, it's not you, it's me. I can't. I'm sorry." A sharp crack rang out. Lillian's champagne flute slipped and shattered on the floor. She went limp. Only Derek's quick reflexes kept her from collapsing. "This is a sin." Lillian wailed, burying her face in her hands. Derek's face was no longer merely livid. It was black iron. He raised a trembling arm and, in the end, swung a vicious slap across Preston's cheek. "You've disgraced the entire Song family today," he shouted, voice shaking with rage. Preston clutched his cheek, eyes bloodshot as he glared at me. "Serena, you faked that recording. You're insane," he screamed, flailing for any last shred of defense. "Don't believe her. She's jealous because Rowan is having my baby and she can't. She wants to ruin us all." No one bought it. The guests only looked more disgusted. A man who blames the wife he deceived for 8 years for his own affair and unborn child. That level of shamelessness was staggering. I didn't even bother to retort. I simply watched him perform. In the corner, Rowan tried to slip out the side door while everyone's attention stayed fixed on Preston. Unfortunately for her, the security guards I had posted earlier blocked her path the instant she reached it. "Rowan, the party isn't over yet. Where do you think you're going?" one of them said flatly. Rowan's knees buckled. She almost crumpled to the floor. I don't feel well. I'd like to go home," she whimpered. I lifted the microphone. "Don't rush off, Rowan. You're the leading lady tonight. It wouldn't do for the heroine to leave before the finale." My words froze her in place. She looked at Preston, silently pleading for rescue. But Preston was drowning. He had nothing left to spare for her. "Preston, let's get a divorce," I said, each word crisp and cool. His head snapped up, face blank with shock and dread. He had probably assumed I'd staged this scene only to vent, to humiliate him and Rowan. He had never imagined I would actually file for divorce. After all, in his eyes, I loved him so much I'd crawled through dust for him. How could I ever bear to leave? "Divorce?" He exploded on the spot. "Serena, forget it. I won't sign. That's not your call." I gave a soft laugh, pulled the final document from my clutch, the divorce petition drafted weeks ago. Per the prenup, every asset we acquired after marriage is community property. I demand an equal split, every house, share, and fund in your name, plus. I paused and turned my gaze to Brielle. "The villa you bought her on the west side with our money, and that $5 million secret trust fund you opened in her name." The color drained from Preston's face. He staggered back a step, staring as if he'd seen a ghost. He'd buried those assets so deep even his parents didn't know, yet I had the ledger memorized. How do you?" He pointed at me, lips trembling, unable to finish a syllable. I walked to where he knelt, crouched, and spoke so softly only he could hear. "Preston, you thought this was the end." I leaned closer to his ear, voice dropping even lower. Everyone in the ballroom watched me, expressions ranging from pity to contempt to pure, hungry excitement. Derek and Lillian had crumpled under the blow. I didn't look at them again. I lifted my phone and dialed. The call connected instantly. "Casey," a calm male voice answered. "Jordan, go," I said evenly. "On it." The line went dead. Within 60 seconds, the main doors swung open. A middle-aged man in a dark suit and gold-rimmed glasses stepped to the fore. "Derek, Morgan, Sam." Jordan's voice rang clear. "By the full authority of my client, Serena, I hereby serve Sam with divorce papers and a detailed community property schedule. Please review." He laid the folder on the table. The gesture snapped Preston's last restraint. He lurched upright, shrieking, "I won't. Avery, refusal isn't an option." Jordan reached into his briefcase for a second file. "We have solid proof you repeatedly diverted Song Group funds to purchase a $30 million villa for Ms. Brielle and to open a $5 million secret trust in her name. This ceased to be a simple property split the moment you did that," Jordan continued, voice like frost. "Sam, you're facing felony embezzlement. We've compiled and submitted everything to the authorities. Expect news soon." Just then the doors burst open again, but this time it was a swarm of reporters wielding cameras and microphones. "Sam, is the recording real? Did you lie to Serena for 8 years? Did you really embezzle to buy your mistress a house? Ms. Brielle, when did your relationship with Sam start? Did you know he was married?" The barrage shredded the last of Preston's composure. Flashbulbs blinded him. He tried to bolt, found himself walled in by lenses and outstretched arms. His life, once sky-high, I had just yanked into the filthiest mud. Amid the chaos, uniformed officers carved a path. We're investigating reports of massive embezzlement and commercial money laundering. Preston, you need to come with us. 2 officers stepped forward, snapped cold handcuffs around his wrists. Another approached Brielle. Ms. Brielle-Jo, you're also wanted for questioning. She shook her head, mascara streaking, shrieking apologies nobody heeded. Still they cuffed her and marched her out, 1 cop on each arm. As Preston was dragged past me, I looked at him and smiled. After they left, Jordan came over, offering a pen and a single sheet. Casey, this authorizes criminal prosecution for the embezzlement. Sign and there's no turning back. I didn't hesitate. At the bottom I wrote my name, Serena. The strokes were sharp, decisive. 3 months later, I stood at the river-to-sky window of a Riverdale CBD penthouse, pour-over coffee in hand, looking down on the city I had lived in for 8 years. Everything looked the same, yet nothing was. Dylan, Mr. Davis is here, waiting in conference room 3, Cindy said, knocking. Be right there. For 8 years I had shelved my own career, content to be the perfect wife who managed every detail so Preston could rise unencumbered. I'd almost forgotten. Before the vows, I'd graduated top of my class, collected international awards, been the protégé every professor bet on. Now I'd simply reclaimed what was mine. After that night, Song Group's stock went into free fall. Turmoil devoured the board. Using my settlement and my network, I swooped in on their most promising divisions, incorporated my own investment firm, Aurora. A new dawn, a bright path. When Mr. Davis left, Jordan called. He told me Brielle had miscarried in county jail. Now she and Preston trade accusations in court. Each swears the other ruined them. Ugly spectacle. I could picture the dogs snarling over scraps and felt only disdain. That so-called epic love, the affair that justified betraying everyone, had proved as fragile as cheap crystal under real pressure. There's more, Jordan added. Preston asked his lawyer to tell me he deeply regrets everything. Regret? I laughed. The word from his mouth was pure satire. Yes. Claims Brielle bewitched him, that you were the only light in his life, wants your forgiveness. Says he'll behave in prison, earn early release, and begs for another chance when he gets out. Jordan himself almost laughed relating it. Jordan, I'm here, Casey. Kindly relay this. I stared at the skyline and spoke each word with crystal clarity. Forgiveness? Maybe in the next life. I ended the call. Preston regretted. The phrase floated through me, stirred nothing, left only a dull, amused absurdity. The most useless things in this world are belated devotion and belated repentance. I drained the cold coffee in my cup, letting the bitter taste spread across my tongue. It left me feeling clearer than ever. Still working. The office door opened gently and Zane walked in. He wore a charcoal gray bespoke suit, his posture straight, his presence steady. He was my ally in business and one of Cheeming Capital's most important partners, the heir to Callahan. Just finished some personal matters. I assume they involve Preston. His voice was calm, as though stating a fact. I didn't deny it. Jordan says he's full of regret in there and hopes I'll forgive him. Zane glanced sideways at me, then gave a soft laugh. Serena, do you believe him? I believe he's sorry, I answered slowly. He's sorry not for hurting me, but for losing everything he once had. Sorry for losing the woman who made him look invincible and cleaned up every mess. Zane said nothing, and the room fell silent except for the faint whisper of the central air. After a long while he spoke again, voice lower. Serena, the first time I saw you wasn't at Cheeming's opening gala. Surprised, I turned to look at him. He kept his gaze on the boundless night outside the window, as though recalling something from ages ago. It was 9 years ago at Riverdale University's senior showcase. 9 years, a point in time I'd nearly forgotten. You stood in front of your project and explained your concept to every visitor. You wore a simple white dress, no makeup, hair in a ponytail, and your eyes held light. His voice was steady, and the picture he painted coaxed that dusty memory into focus. Yes, I remembered now. That was the proudest moment of my life. My thesis had won the gold prize. Back then I believed my future would be as bright as those drawings. But for Preston I had dimmed every spotlight. I saw you a few times after that, Zane went on. At business banquets, trailing after Preston in expensive gowns, face perfectly made, smile flawlessly polite, yet the light in your eyes was gone. Serena. He finally turned, meeting my gaze. I admire Cheeming's Dylan, decisive, resilient, brilliant. He paused and took a small step closer. I don't want to be only your partner. I've waited a long time. So long I thought I'd never get to say this. Now I want to ask, will you give me a chance and give yourself one too? I hesitated, asking myself, is he confessing? I studied him, studied my reflection in his deep eyes. I saw hesitation, timidity, scars left by the past. But I also saw a faint, newly rekindled longing of my own. A longing for love, for a future. All right. I nodded. Zane and I set our wedding for blossoming May. At last I had found the man who would treasure me and promise me forever. When we exchanged rings, he slid the band onto my finger, then lowered his head and brushed a soft kiss across the back of my hand. Applause thundered through the hall. Amid the cheers I spotted Jordan. He lifted his glass to me, smile full of relief. A few days after the ceremony, he called. Preston saw the news of your wedding on the cell block television, he said. At first he just sat there, muttering, impossible. She was supposed to be mine. Then he snapped, smashed things, attacked guards, raving your name, sobbing that he was wrong, begging you to come back. The prison called in a psychiatrist, diagnosis, acute stress reaction, plain English, the shock drove him insane. He's been transferred to Riverdale for compulsory treatment. Rowan's case is closed too. In court she and Preston flung every blame at each other, ugly scene, both sentenced poetic justice. I hung up, feeling nothing much. What are you thinking? Zane slipped his arms around my waist from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. I leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. That I'm happy now. He chuckled and held me tighter. This is only the beginning. He led me to the living room table where a velvet box waited, exquisitely wrapped. Wedding gift for you. Curious, I opened it. Inside lay not jewels, but a time-worn design portfolio. The cover, yellowed with age, bore neat handwriting. Reflections of light and dreams, Serena. My college portfolio. I'd thought Preston had tossed it, along with those impractical dreams, into the trash. My fingers warmed as they traced the cover. Zane took my hand and turned the first page. I don't want Cheeming Capital's Dylan to bury the most gifted designer of her year. He stopped at a particular sheet and pointed. It was a necklace, a seed wrapped in vines breaking through the soil. I had named it Rebirth. I had it made. He produced a small box and opened it. The necklace matched the drawing exactly. He lifted it and moved behind me to clasp it round my neck. The cool metal touched my skin, and suddenly I stiffened. Zane paused. What's wrong? On the drawing, beside the word Rebirth, someone had once penciled a tiny note. To the first light of my life, ZC. ZC. Back then I'd assumed it was Preston. But now it hit me. Zane's full name is Zane C. Callahan. And the principal sponsor of that senior showcase 9 years ago had been Callahan. I turned slowly to face him. Zane met my gaze, tender as ever. He spoke softly, a barely audible sigh. Looks like you finally remember me. Thank you for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you enjoyed the video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more wonderful stories. See you next time.